Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about She-Ra because Geeky wants to talk about She-Ra.
Right, because I'm going to geek like a girl, just not in the way they're going to like.
You're going to geek like a girl.
See, fangirls geek like a girl.
Oh, is that? I didn't even see this. This is
So yeah, I'm a girl. I'm
fancy.
gonna give them some geek, and they're not gonna probably like the geek I'm gonna give them.
Okay.
I'm geeky like a girl.
There you go. So guys, we apologize if there's any echo. We are in the smaller studio space. We're getting furniture in here. Everybody's like, why are you echoing?
But I don't understand how there's more of an echo here than what's in the other place we use because it's about the same size.
I don't know.
It's weird.
It is weird. Anyway, it's for dramatic effect.
That's right.
She-Ra!
It's me in stereo. Anyway, so this article, it's going to go the way you think it is. How She-Ra took on the gendered toy battles of the 1980s.
Written by somebody who wasn't alive in the 1980s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then they get some comments and they're like, oh, they're pro She-Ra, and then they have to get digs. Because we've mentioned many times about the behind-the-scenes story about She-Ra and how it came to be. And it wasn't, there's a lot of women who fought for it to be the way it was. And it isn't the load of shit that they keep spinning it to be. With the new Princesses of Power, they finally diversity. It's like, no, it was there before. Oh, this is a toy for men to fap to, and it's like, no, actually, they had to fight to make her less pretty. But that would require research and like watching the show on Netflix.
Yeah, there actually is a documentary. I think it's called The Power of Grayskull on Netflix that does succinctly sort of talk about the origins of classic He-Man and She-Ra, and there were a lot of women involved in She-Ra, both in the creation of the character and in the marketing and all of that. Believe it or not, she was designed for girls.
That's right. So she starts off this article with, you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, but she had to throw 90s in there because she would have been a little kid in the 90s. The chances are you watched a lot of TV and owned a lot of toys. This wasn't a phenomenon unique to our age group. No, it isn't, because they used to do like tie-ins of shows like Howdy Doody and toys and stuff for years. Not a new thing.
Mickey Mouse toys in the 1930s.
That's right. If you watch one of our Pirates and Princesses videos on Facebook, I even have a toy from 1931 of Pluto. So it's like almost 90 years old. So it's not a new thing at all. This has been going on for years. It's not an 80s or 90s thing. So they go on about, they're going about Reagan and deregulation of markets, which is true. That did happen.
Yeah,
they're talking about the FCC's fairness doctrine and all that kind of stuff.
Oh God, can I read this?
Yes, please do.
Beloved kids series like G.I. Joe, Transformers, the Care Bears, and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe offered mindless entertainment, often produced on the cheap, that could be commodified to the nth degree because they basically broke down the barriers between advertising and TV and cartoons. And in a lot of ways, though, I think that opened up a lot of opportunities.
But beyond that, they keep acting like it's a bad thing.
Yes.
I'm so sick of these people, like this person, that acts like just because they were made to sell toys, that they were made on the cheap and they were made crappy. No, actually, they're pretty good. A lot of times they had, good stories. I mean, Care Bears were fighting flipping Satan. My Little Ponies were fighting Satan. Let's see, She-Ra fights Satan with the Noelle Stevenson She-Ra. No, she's fighting identity politics.
she's fighting the cis white males of the galaxy.
I guess that's Satan now. He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, they were all good shows. I watched them. You know what I really liked was Mask. Loved Mask.
Yeah.
Watch it all the time. And you know what? I was fine with it. I didn't have to see myself in it to identify. Loved these shows. They had a lot of shows that were girl-based shows they aren't mentioning too. Like, Strawberry Shortcake. And, we had Rainbow Bright. And, there was She-Ra. There was the Gem.
If these shows were so terrible, why do these younger generations line up to reboot them?
But why are they lining up to take a shit on the old ones to elevate the new stuff that they're giving us that's complete garbage? But no, the 80s ones were trash. They're talking about the endless cycle of content and commodity was practically a money printing machine. Yeah, because imagine that. Companies like to make money.
Here's the thing, and this is why people whine when cartoon shows now, they get canceled after maybe one season or two seasons. Because they're very expensive to produce. And, just advertising alone doesn't pull in the money. So, why is Cartoon Network showing Teen Titans Go endlessly? It's because it's really cheap to produce. I mean, you're talking about these shows being cheap? I'm sorry, Teen Titans Go is way cheaper. Plus the merchandise sells, And look at SpongeBob. Why has SpongeBob been on for like freaking 25 years? Because the merchandise still sells.
Right. And I mean, I'm sorry. It was a good plan. The merchandise pays for the show. The show, promotes the merchandise. It was the circle of money, and it was a grand one. And I'm sorry that people of today are too stupid to figure that out. Not my problem. Maybe your shows to stay on the air longer, people actually, bought stuff. Paid for them.
Yeah, where the hell does this generation think the money comes from?
They're supposed to throw money into the ether to give them the shows they want because they're them and they deserve it.
At $500,000 to $1 million an episode.
Right. Okay. Because they're so deserving. But they don't want any toy tie-ins because that's just like garbage like the 80s. That made all the, it was inventing all the properties they want to rape today. But, it was just, bunch of crap. But the field was lucrative, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I love this. However, it was deeply defined by sexist expectations. Shows like Transformers, The Real Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, and of course He-Man were male-dominated stories that often had one token female character, if one existed at all. Yeah, and you know what else? There was more than one in a lot of these shows. But beyond that, girls liked them too. And you know what? Boys watched the girls' shows too, and it was fine because there were shows for girls. Like Rainbow Bright, Jem sang songs and kicked people's asses.
You can't bring
Strawberry Shortcake.
Yeah, there was
Purple Pedo Man was trying to, eat their berries.
I thought and this is the truth, I mentioned this before in other videos, I honestly thought the Purple Pie Man was trying to kill and eat the strawberry children.
I don't know, but I mean, there was plenty of shows that had females. And then in the shows they're mentioning, G.I. Joe, you had Scarlet, you had Lady J, you wasn't just, and they were like kicked your ass. I mean, it wasn't like, Thundercats, you had Chitara and stuff. Oh, there's only one female character, token.
Well, yeah, but okay, and Squid King brought this up too, but on the female-centric, and I'll tell you why they did this. Okay, and this is coming from somebody who grew up in the era and talked to a lot of people who worked, believe it or not, I know a lot of people who worked on these shows.
Yeah, older than 29.
Older than 29. This author is like under 30, so not even, okay. I am really tired of these younger journalists pontificating.
Journalists in quotes.
Pontificating on everything that was wrong with the 1980s, and they weren't even fucking there.
No, they're just mad because they want to justify why their versions, the ones that they like now, are better. Even though it's just a reboot of something that already existed because they're not good enough to make something new.
Sloppy seconds.
Pretty much.
Sloppy seconds. So, anyway. Here's the reason. The reason was back then, before Netflix and all this stuff, we had very few choices in TV channels. So the brothers and the sisters would watch shows together. So when you had a show like My Little Pony, you just had to assume that the little sister would watch it, but you had to keep the little brother interested or the channel would get changed. So they would have the My Little Ponies fight Satan. They had a boy on it was Danny, I think.
They had brother ponies.
Yeah, so they had male characters, and they did it with Jem too. You had Rio and Eric, and that was.
And then I was thinking with Rainbow Bright and the Star Stealer. You had Onyx and Chris. Onyx, yeah. And it was they were just as important to the show, the movie as she was.
Now I'm just thinking. This is really interesting. Because there's like one kid that did all the voices of all the boy characters. And he was a kid who did Daniel in Transformers. He did Danny on My Little Pony. And I think he was Chris in Rainbow Bright and the Star Stealer. It was the same kid.
Oh, really?
And he was a kid from Over the Top.
So there you go.
Yeah. So
I was thinking Transformers had Carly. They did that.
Carly could fix cars better than Spike. And Spike basically lived in a hard hat.
Yeah.
Like, he never took the damn hard hat off.
I mean, I'm sure he's hiding some weird head deformity or something under there.
He's bald at 16.
But they're going on. And then Care Bears, okay, I'm going to talk about this for a minute too. Well, it's going to tie into the article later. When we were kids, and a lot of you probably remember this, boys wanted the same toys as girls. Like, Care Bears came out, boys and girls both wanted them. When Cabbage Patch Kids came out, boys and girls both wanted them. I mean, you're going on about gender. You're complaining about it being, later on they complain about the gender aisle, but then they're bitching about gender on this too. And it's like, but you weren't there because that's not what happened.
That's not what happened. Even video games, like I don't, it's just so frustrating because all the kids I played with when I was little, like we used to play like all the toys. We all played together, brothers, sisters, boys, girls. We all played together.
We all watch the same shows too.
We all watch the same shows. Girls were, and where did She-Ra come from? They found out little sisters were watching He-Man. They liked Teela, so they made She-Ra.
The show in general.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that here in a bit. She talked about that here. I'm going to go down here. She goes on about it's like the Minnie Mouse and blah 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 and Brittany and Alvin Chipmunks. And then the 80s She-Ra, the original Princess of Power in the 80s was a spin-off of Filmation's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. Yes. Which started life as a toy line at Mattel. Yes. That show was a major financial success for the company with 130 episodes. Oh, you're giving them the credit? Yeah. So they go on about, Masters of the Universe had toys, toothbrushes, bed sheets, and all that because clearly that's a problem that they did that, but they made money. But then they said the intent of She was evident from the get-go. Create a female counterpart to He-Man that would allow Mattel to cash in on the ever lucrative market of young girls. Yeah, because they were watching the same damn shows the boys were.
That's how capitalism works. I know a lot of people write for sci-fi think capitalism is bad. So when your bosses decide not to pay you anymore, they'll lay you off. They'll just say, well, we don't believe in capitalism anymore. So we decided not to chase advertisers. We're not charging for subscriptions. We just think that information should be free, and I'm sorry you're out of a job now.
Yeah.
But that's how it works.
Well, they said, they're talking about how this is defined by, they're talking about how they made it for girls to make money. Yeah, because girls are watching the He-Man show, and they thought, well, of course, why not? Let's make one for girls, too, and then we can do crossovers. I mean, it makes sense. They said about the altruism. They said, then again, it's not as if mainstream pop culture at large has historically been defined by creative altruism. No shit, Sherlock. The cynicism behind She-Ra is impossible to ignore. Although given its specific context, it's also fascinating how the company put way more effort behind the concept than most people would have expected. Yeah, they worked really hard on She-Ra, contrary to what she says, because she goes, she is a blatant gender swap take on He-Man right down to the name. No. They were going to do a show for girls. They were going to make her He-Man's sister. So, of course, she was going to be like He-Man. But they had women design the characters, the look of the figures. They had to fight to get it through that they weren't super uber Barbie pretty, to make her thicker, to be bulkier, to keep up with He-Man. She-Ra could keep up with He-Man, by the way.
Yeah, and her sword could change shape. He-Man's couldn't.
Yeah, so I'm just like, and she can kick people's ass. And so, they're like, well, I love this part, though. She's surrounded by a cast of female companions who are distinct in terms of skills and personality, rather than blatant rip-offs of the He-Man ensemble. Did you ever watch the shows? Did you literally watch the shows before you wrote this article? Because pretty much the She-Ra characters were a opposite to the He-Mans.
Yeah, they were like 1-to-1. They had you can pick up pretty much any She-Ra character and be like, oh, here's the He-Man counterpart.
Right.
You look at Double Trouble. What was Manny Faces? It was the same gimmick.
Sweet Bee was Buzz-Off.
Angela was Stratos. It was like they were kind of 1-to-1. Like, oh, this one flies, this is Stratos fly. So yeah, they were. It's not entirely accurate.
Yeah, well, half this article, most of this article is not entirely
accurate.
Perfuma
and Stinkor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's like that's not exactly true. These are women who are capable and allowed to be more than damsels, sidekicks, and personality-free gender swaps with pretty pink bows.
And it passes the Bechdel test.
Do not even get me started on the Bechdel test. That test is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Basically, it's just made to, push identity politics. But anyway, so then they talk about the commercials. They go, you can go to eBay right now and find vintage treasures, but I love this. They're talking about Barbie with action armor. It's like Barbie with action armor available alongside mini combs for fans to brush Adora's luscious locks.
Somebody watches your videos.
Yeah. Brushable hair. I said it first.
I thought OG She-Ra was awful. It was sexist. It was just a bunch of pretty women with all the same body types. I thought it was just a trash cartoon. And she's singing the praises of this. Maybe some.
Well, no, she's not. She's saying exactly what you said, but then saying, but you can buy them on eBay. Pick a side.
Oh my God.
No, she never reached the heights of He-Man, probably because she wasn't out as long as He-Man. And people, they moved on.
Oh my god, so wait. Despite its many qualities and its status in a crowded field of kids animation as a uniquely female-centered series...
It wasn't that unique.
Gender stereotyping from networks and focus groups got in the way. What? That's not what happened. Mm-mm. You weren't fucking there. You weren't even born. What happened was the toys, look, there was a shift. A lot of the stuff that was popular in the early to mid 80s, there was like a transition period in like the mid 80s to late 80s where everything just kind of flipped. And once the toys ran out of steam, then the show got pulled off the air.
Well, not just that. What happened too was the same thing kind of happened with 2002 He-Man. They had so many He-Mans and Skeletors and stuff. Yeah. People just weren't buying them. They already had it. So this kind of like fizzled out because of that. It wasn't because She-Ra killed He-Man or anything like that. No,
there's a lot of theory, but it just, I think people were just kind of it
ran its course, and then they're ready to move to something else, just like you see today. But I like this part. In the 80s, toys were extremely gendered, and most stores like Toys R Us segregated them based on whether it meant for boys or girls. Barbie was pink and pretty for girls, while Transformers were tough and full of firepower, so only boys wanted them, right? Well, actually, that's not what happened. I mean, they did separate it, but it was because they were making them separate it that's what happened with Nintendo.
Yeah, okay, so let's back this bus up a little bit. Again, this is written by somebody who wasn't actually there. We were fucking there. I remember how things were. Remember the Sears catalogs, remember playing with my friends, remember seeing how the toys were actually laid out. It wasn't really that simple. You had mostly a Barbie aisle, and you had mostly like a Hot Wheels aisle.
Which they still have today, by the way. Go to Walmart and they have girls aisles and boys aisles.
I hate to break it to you, but they do. But they also had a lot of what you'd call gender-neutral toys like Care Bears and Cabbage Patch Kids and, yes, Lego. And Nintendo, though, is kind of where things kind of came off the rails. Because when Atari was introduced as a family gaming system. The commercials had mom, dad, the kids, the grandparents, everybody playing Atari. Now, when Nintendo came out, since there was a huge video game crash, they had to figure out, like, we have to market this like a toy. How are we going to do this? Oh, okay, it's a cool thing for mostly boys at the time to play, but they did have girls playing it too, but mostly they were trying to market it as like a boys toy. They had to pick. But it's still this way. This is the thing too, like, I'm sorry, they still have a Barbie aisle, and they're still mostly pink boxes.
Well, as much as they're mad about Transformers are tough and full of firepower, so only boys wanted them, right? Oh, you mean like the Easy Bake Ovens they still had out were made pink, and that there were boys that wanted them to the place they had to make some neutral colors for Easy Bake Ovens because it wasn't just girls that wanted them? You mean like that? Or the fact that they had like little sewing machines out and my son had wanted one, but they only came in pink and purple, so he refused to ask for one because he said he didn't want a pink or purple one? Because they still just, do this gender thing, and they do it for toys that you'd find totally okay because it's okay when it's something that you like, but it's not okay if you're cut out of something like Transformers, even though many girls had Transformers and played with them. But they go on about Lego down here, and they talk about, how, Lego was for boys, and I'm like, Lego was for everybody. Yeah. Like everybody played Lego. It wasn't gender specific.
Oh, God. So the 80s were a tough time to be a kid who didn't want to be defined by one or two colors.
The 80s was a time where no one was defined by that anyway.
It was better. I hate to break it to you, but it seemed like we weren't as preoccupied with this shit that these people were.
Exactly. People aren't so it has to be boy or girl. You guys are the ones making it that way. Back in the 80s where you weren't from, we were, like I said, boys and girls played the same toys and nobody gave a shit. Boys wanted dolls, no problem. Girls wanted cars, no problem. No one cared. It wasn't like today where you're constantly shoving these gender identity things down everybody's throats. You guys are the ones making it this way. You're the ones twisting the past and trying to make it fit your narrative. That's not what happened.
No, this is bullshit. This is all like, oh, the 80s are bad because capitalism and Reagan.
And because girls' toys had to be pink and like with Barbie hair and stuff. Barbie was an astronaut. I love Barbie, I'm not gonna lie, but I also would go play Transformers and Star Wars and whatever the hell I wanted. My cousins had wrestling figures. We go do that. Yeah, I know a girl who's a huge Hulk Hogan fan to this day. Bullshit that you were defined by the 80s. You could do whatever the hell you wanted. Have you seen pictures of people in the 80s? They weren't defined by much.
Well, I think this is like, I watched some videos on YouTube and I talked to a couple people and my gender studies professor said, it's like you weren't fucking there. You have no clue how it actually was. they're talking about like, well, boys didn't want to be seen with She-Ra. I had a She-Ra and a bow because I watched the movie.
Yeah.
And I freaking loved He-Man. And to me, She-Ra was more He-Man. It was basically the same show. I was like, I get more He-Man because they usually ran them back to back.
A lot of guys watched Gem because it was around the same time other shows. They would run like these shows back to back, and people just watched them all. And Gem, they made her kick flipping ass all the time because they knew boys were watching too.
Gem, okay, and that was intentional.
I know.
Because I actually, I'll tell you, I'm friends with one of the writers of Gem, and I know what the thought process was.
Please enlighten this person.
Well, okay, so that was the thought process. I'm not going to out that particular friend on the show because I don't want people bugging them, but I do know people that worked on that show, and they said that was the point, because Gem started out originally as part of a Hasbro block. It was like a Sunday block, and they had a Bigfoot monster truck cartoon. Gem was sandwiched between, as I recall, Bigfoot monster truck cartoon and I think it was Constructs or something. It was like a robotics. Another like quote unquote boy toy. So they knew that boys were going to watch it. They had to make Gem action packed because they had to, they didn't want the brothers to flip the channel between the Bigfoot cartoon and the Gem cartoon. Now Gem was of all the cartoons that were on, that was kind of like, and Inhumanoids was on there too. And of all the cartoons that were on there that were being test marketed, they were basically being test marketed to see which one was most popular. Gem wound up being most popular. Now, when Gem actually was a series, like a regular series, she was on usually after Transformers or G.I. Joe. Like one of those.
Everybody watched them both. I
watched them both.
I remember being so excited about the G.I. Joe. They run the specials, like they break it up into like 20-minute episodes, like for Monday through Friday, like the movies and stuff. I remember going to school and playing G.I. Joe with the kids in the school. Boys and girls played it. We all watched the same things. Gem, of course it had to be Gem. And they're like, well, they did it for boys. No, girls liked it too. Girls loved the whole idea that she was kicking ass and taking names. That
Yeah.
The girls liked it too. That's why I was so bored to death with like the G3 My Little Pony, because all they were like, it's party and cake time, and I'm just like, this is stupid.
Well, because we actually went backwards. And that's like My Little Pony too. The people that worked on that it was Sunbow Productions that worked on the original My Little Pony pilot, or the first two like specials they had. Again, they were test marketing to see if it was worth having a series. They just came off of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. That's why the ponies
Which boys and girls both like that too.
They did, and that was oh my god, diverse cast. There were
can't be true. They just invented it with She-Ra and the shows now. Just ask this writer.
Yeah, right. I'm so tired of these journalists writing for these outlets, throwing shade at a decade that they weren't even alive for.
But they want to take everything from and claim.
Right. They want to claim it as their own. But now that we're more progressive than we were back then.
No, we were
way back in the dark ages.
People were plenty progressive back in the 80s.
We were more, I would say we're more progressive back then.
More open-minded.
Yeah, I'm watching action. We watched the Action Park documentary on HBO Max, and I'm like, yeah, this is how things were back then. Like, people didn't give a shit,
No, they're so, like, putting all this stuff on it, claiming it's this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, it wasn't back then because you guys invented this shit now. If you want to take credit for inventing something, you're inventing all this problematic shit where you're making it an issue. Because it didn't used to be one. People didn't care what color you were. Boys and girls played with the same things. Nobody cared. Nobody thought twice anything of it.
I mean, were there dicks who were probably making fun of kids? There
always are.
But that's still the case today. I'm just like, don't make it out like the 1980s were the freaking dark ages. Like we're talking, it's like centuries ago. It's like we were there. We remember what it was like. I don't give a shit what your gender studies professor told you. It was a pretty cool time to be alive.
Oh, it gets better. Wait to hear this next one.
Do I need alcohol?
She-Ra ended after 2 seasons. And by the time the 90s rolled on, there were other toys in town pulling in the big bucks. Shock horror. Most of them were for boys too, because that they just invented this. God, it's taken us a long time to tackle this problem head on.
Who's us?
Yeah, people like her. Animation has gotten more varied and audiences are less concerned with the pink and blue conundrum. They weren't concerned then! But yeah, it would require you to pull your head out of your butt and do your homework. Your narrative is this, and you keep saying this. You weren't there. We were there. You're full of crap. We were there. Steven Universe, Adventure Time, the Powerpuff Girls, Gravity Falls, DuckTales, which... Okay. DuckTales was then too. And of course,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Netflix,
right.
and of course the Netflix reboot of She-Ra defined them. Yeah, exactly. She's trying to push why Netflix She-Ra is better. That's what this whole effing article that goes on for paragraphs and paragraphs, why she pontificates about everything in the 80s that she knows nothing about. It's all because she's mad about because she wants She-Ra and the Princesses of Power to be popular. Their empathy, creativity, and universality, because, you know, they just invented universally loved characters that they stole from the 80s. How can you invent something that you just stole? Really?
I can't with it. And this is Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi Wire, which is owned by NBC, which is Universal, which is DreamWorks.
But it gets better.
Oh, okay.
There's still a long way to go, of course. Pop culture continues to be polluted by alt-right dog whistles.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And I'm going to say this. Fuck you. I'm sorry. I don't usually say that, but I'm going to say that in this case. I'm sorry, Mom. I usually don't call people names or say stuff like this. I'm going to say it because you're full of crap. First of all, you know, I'm tired of you blaming everybody alt-right dog whistle. Oh, for heaven's sakes. You guys literally have hijacked, because it's been hijacked. You have hijacked every property from the 80s. You're writing this stuff for you and your buddies on Tumblr. You're going to try to pretend like you're being fair and you're being unbiased and you're a real journalist, and then you put shit like this in.
And they always wait. Did you ever notice that they always start out? I've said this 100 times. These articles, we have read so many of these fucking articles over the last three years or whatever we've been doing this. They always start out like, I'm the voice of reason, and then by the time you get to the last paragraph, it's like Trump, all right.
You know what's funny too is they're all clones of each other. They're going on about the 80s being clones and the 80s being boring, and all they do is clone each other on these articles because they're trying to push their gender studies, which he does in a minute. Pop culture continues to be polluted by alt-right dog whistles and has been heavily hijacked by such figures as a terrifyingly effective means to spread hate.
What the hell are you talking?
This article is a way to spread hate. It's full of misinformation,
what a bunch of
trying to
shit.
skew it. You, ma'am, are spreading the hate. I'm sorry, but people like you are causing this problem. These problems didn't exist until journalists like you came in here and said they were there and kept trying to cause issues. Okay, people like you. And then they said on here, a favored means of doing so remains the ceaseless attacking of women-led stories. Women-led stories have been around for years. You did not fucking invent them. I'm sorry, Mom, but I'm sick of this. You did not invent them. They've been around for decades. And the ones you're going on about are ones you people have appropriated from the flippin' 80s. Or gender-swapped reboots of properties for boys. Screw you. You don't know what the heck you're talking about, and I'm so tired of people like you going around trying to cause trouble. The only good news is nobody fucking listens to you.
Yeah, this is why the shows get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the general public, it's not an alt-right dog whistle. The general public's like, what's this shit? I love how she ends it.
Mm-hmm.
A whole generation of corporate rule defined what was intended for which gender, and far too many closed-minded creeps still live and die by that ethos.
Says the person who's trying to tell everybody how they should think.
So, basically, let me get this straight. So you grew up in the 80s, and you actually like those shows, whatever. You're a closed-minded creep. Mm-hmm. You're a closed-minded cretin.
Right, but only the open-minded people like her are the ones that should be making decisions. Let me remind you that most of the shows that you guys are completely defending and going on and on and on about are reboots of shows from the flippin' 80s.
It's like you guys have created nothing.
You've created nothing, and then I'll give people, even if I don't like the show, if they create something themselves, I'll give them credit for at least trying to create something themselves.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are turning against this mindset because it's a load of shit. And this whole article can be summed up with, I'm going to pretend I care about the real She-Ra, but I'm actually going to insult real She-Ra. I'm going to insult 80s kids, and I'm going to turn around and say that it's because, thank God, corporations are listening to us because we're demanding it and making it gender neutral and stuff now instead of, what happened in the 80s that I didn't live through, so I don't know what I'm talking about and spreading a lot of crap that isn't true.
But where's the money gonna come from?
I don't know. Well, let's just say, good. Yeah, let's hope the money keeps drying up because then people like her won't have a place to write for. And when you look her up, she writes for a bunch of these places because
Pajiba and
you have to write for many when to get enough money to make it.
When you're making a couple bucks an article. Well, okay, so Sci-Fi again. Sci-Fi is NBC Universal. Which owns DreamWorks too, by the way. So this is all in their best interest to be like, She-Ra's the best. Also NBC, I'm going to mention this because this has come up on some other YouTubers' channels. NBC is going to, for whatever reason, they're gonna push harder into social justice issues, which means that
I guess they don't like money.
They don't like money. Sci-Fi Wire. I mean, this is the same trash outlet that attacked anime fans because it was fascist to have military uniforms and historical anime.
Let's take a moment. Yeah, I know, right? Let's take a moment, okay, to think about this for a second. They're going to double down on this stuff. Let's refresh. The She-Ra of the 80s was bad because it was just made to sell toys, which made a shit ton of money, even admittedly so in this article. So we're going to double down on opposite of that, which doesn't make money. Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Let's see who can run out of money the fastest. I'm actually hoping this happens. I hope it winds up like Highlander, where the people and the companies, the corporations who get their shit together and are like, let's actually give the majority of people what they want, and they'll pay us for it, and we'll just keep making more good stuff that they'll pay us for. Instead, we're going to have a bunch of companies be like, no, let's just forget all about money and let's just do, more social justice programs that aren't going to generate revenue because they're for like 3% of people.
That's exactly it. The majority of people, they're not asking for this. These screaming loud people on places like Sci-Fi Wire, and then they're not even representing what happened accurately. And then they're on there yelling and yelling and yelling because it's the truth, because we said so.
Like, I'm not saying that there's not a place for this kind of... Like, I don't have a problem with Steven Universe because it's its own thing.
No, I don't either.
But I can also tell you that Steven Universe doesn't move merchandise.
But beyond that, the difference is people like Steven Universe, and we're like, that's fine, you can like it. We don't call them alt-left, whatever, for liking it.
Not at all.
There's a difference. And I'm sick and tired of being attempted bullying by these brainless hive mind idiots who keep writing these stories. I'm just like, do your homework. I mean, just because you quoted this person, that person, and you cherry picked stuff that you thought would make your case, even though you didn't actually live in it to know if you were right or not.
Yeah, I don't, and I see this time and time again. I see all these journalists, using air quotes here, talking about all the problems, all the problematic content from the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, and it's like, you weren't even there. You weren't there.
But what's funny is they're going on about, make sure they got in there about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power and all that. Yeah, because you know what? Nobody cares. Because what are they going back to? Original She-Ra, and that's what they're pissed about. That's what they're mad about. That's what they're screaming about, because at the end of the day, most people want original She-Ra.
Yeah, Mattel is doubling down. We've done a video on this before. You can go out there and find it. Mattel is actually doubling down on classic She-Ra. They're bringing the original She-Ra back for the Masters of the Universe Origins line with brushable hair.
That's right.
And a battle axe as a brush.
So you can brush her, what did you call it? Her luscious locks. You mean brushable hair? That's what you got it from. Same with this whole 1980s and this toy background. It's something we've covered extensively on this channel. I don't think it's much of a coincidence.
No, they listen. They're hoping.
She's going to love this episode.
They're thirsty. They want us.
Wait, I want to go back a minute. Real quick, if you really want more Warrior Women, you can just follow me on Clownfish.
Yeah, it's so funny. They're talking about how, She-Ra would approve of the new She-Ra. Actually, Melody Britt, the voice of She-Ra.
Who said that?
She said here at the bottom. I didn't see this because there's an ad.
Like hell she would.
She-Ra's legacy lives on, particularly in
this whole thing is a commercial for that show.
Stellar Netflix reboot that redefined the show as queer-friendly, emotionally driven tale of friendship, betrayal, and trauma.
No. Basically, it took every character and made them identity politics characters, and then you're talking about tokenism. This whole show reeks of tokenism.
Audiences are hungrier than ever for shows that laugh in the face of the gender binary.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. And
that's why they fail.
That's why they fail. And there's so many amazing titles to choose from. She-Ra would approve. No, actually, Melody Britt. Do some fucking homework. Melody Britt, the voice actress of the original She-Ra, who has been a massive fan favorite.
And she's been an ally for LGBTQ community for years.
For decades. She had to come out and put outlets like Sci-Fi Wire in their fucking place because they were attacking fans of the original show.
That's what they're doing. She's like, stop attacking the original fans. She's like, there's plenty of room for everybody to, be happy. What she said was very classy. That basically she called out the PR and marketing behind She-Ra, which, let me mention too, Sci-Fi Wire is the one that keeps going to all the panels with Noelle Stevenson Atkinson and Company, at every convention, they're always the ones interviewing her. Don't you find this a little coincidental, especially when it's owned by NBC?
Yeah, it's just marketing fluff. They had to backpedal on Sci-Fi Wire though, but yeah, so do some research. Shira does not approve of the way that the old school fans are being treated. She thinks that there's room for everyone. Honestly, look, there's room for fans of the new show, but it's not a zero-sum game.
You're allowed to like it. What I have a problem with is when you're going around bullying people who don't. Bullying young artists who do fan art of the original instead of the new one.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to add?
I think I've added plenty.
I think you've added plenty too, but that's okay.
I normally don't get that mad, but the arrogance and the load of shit. I couldn't take it any longer.
Yeah, it's over.
And at the end of the day, this whole thing was a commercial for their friends on the new show, because they literally are the ones who are at every convention. When they were doing the convention, had the Sheer panels. Sci-Fi Wire was always the one presenting the panel. We actually had more viewers on ours that one time than Sci-Fi Wire did.
We were actually commenting on Sci-Fi Wire's live stream. So we had a live stream within a live stream. They had like 20 people watching it. We had like a couple thousand.
Right. So they're the ones in there. So they're always kissing up to She-Ra. So this whole article was just a ruse to promote the new show and say, we need more shows like this to go along with their new stupid mandate, which is going to cost them a ton of money, and they frankly deserve it.
Yeah, if Universal goes down this road, I don't want to hear about it. Basically, it's like, guys, there are many case studies, many examples of why going down this road and using your platform and established properties for current year politics and activism is a bad idea. Why it can blow up horribly. And I'm not saying that there isn't room for political commentary or anything like that. Or that
do more diverse shows. I 100% believe there is.
But taking existing properties and telling old school fans of whatever property you're going to reboot or whatever that they're horrible people if they don't like the changes, that's not going to go
well. That just
well.
shows how thin-skinned you are.
Yeah, it's not going to go well, guys. So good luck with that. Meanwhile, a lot of people are just moving on to alternative media, indie media.
Anime.
Which
doesn't play with this shit.
Which Sci-Fi Wire has attacked on multiple occasions. They've attacked anime.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They're not. Who knows how long they're going to be around?
Yeah, well, when the money runs out...
I guarantee you anime will be around longer.
It will be. All right, so we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.